I'm 10 years old and I'm sitting in the passenger seat of my dad's truck. And we're bouncing along, and to the right of me out the window, and I'm short, so I'm stretching my neck to try to see, is just rolling hills full of dirt and sagebrush and desert life. We're in Wyoming, where I grew up, in one of the sort of backcountry back roads. And to the left of me, my dad is driving his truck. And he's got sort of his arm up as he's paying attention to the road. And we're bouncing around this dirt road. And I am so excited, I can barely contain myself because I'm thinking in my head, I hope he says it. I'm waiting for him to say these 4 magic words, which is the whole reason that I came on this trip in the first place. I don't like fishing, but I came because I knew eventually he would say these 4 magic words to me. And just then he turns to me and he says, "Do you want to drive?" This is it. This is what I've been waiting for. But I played it cool. I was like, yeah, okay. So what this looks like for me, my dad stops the car, I take off my seatbelt, I move over, I sit on his lap, he uses his legs to push the gas and the brake with his feet, and then I steer the truck. This is one of my favorite moments with my dad that happened many times throughout my childhood, where he let me drive his truck on a dirt road out sort of in the wilderness, in the deserts of Wyoming. And it was fun, and he would always give me positive feedback. "You're a really good driver, keep your eyes on the road." And that's where I first sort of learned how to drive a big vehicle. But let's go back. The very first time that I actually really learned how to drive, I got this amazing electric red car for, I think it was either Christmas or one of my birthdays. And my parents, or maybe my grandparents, I'm not sure who it came from, had a friend hook it up so I didn't have to push the pedals to make the battery operated car move. There was a switch near the dashboard that I could switch up, and that would make the car go. And then I could steer with the steering wheel. That was the first time that I really learned how to drive and had a car of my own. Then a few years later, as I got a bit older, that car didn't really work anymore. It didn't really fit. And one year my grandparents brought this huge gift to our house. I'm talking massive. It was like 50 times the size of me. I'm not good at math, so I don't know if that's actually true, but it was huge. And that Christmas, it was the gift that I couldn't wait to unwrap. I genuinely had no idea what it was. And Christmas came, and I literally crawled on top of the box, and I'm pulling the wrapping off, and I pull down the sides, and I pull the wrapping off, and we open the box, and it's an electric Jeep. Now this Jeep was awesome because the doors actually opened. There was like a little gas container in the back that you could put water in. It had a little trunk, and same thing, my grandparents had it fixed so I didn't have to push the pedals. All I had to do was flip a switch. And that was one of the ways that I got around in my hometown. It was a really cool way for me as a kid to be able to drive a vehicle, specifically with not having legs. Basically, I was the first person in my family to have an electric vehicle. As I got older, I went from electric cars to a 4-wheeler. My dad got a 4-wheeler and he taught me how to drive it. Now, of course, I always wore a helmet. This is the way that I got around. And if I wanted to switch gears, I would slow down, or basically stop the 4-wheeler, lean down, pull the gear shift with my hand, and then sit back up and keep going. Now, eventually I found a bar that you could attach to the gear shift itself. So it was up here by my hand, so I could still push the gas and then switch the gear with this hand. And then of course they made 4-wheelers that you could change the gear with a push button. But I would say from 7th grade to 9th grade, this is how I got around. Now, I obviously couldn't drive the 4-wheeler on the streets, but there was a lot of desert around us. So, and my best friend Marcy also had a 4-wheeler. So we would ride 4-wheelers all throughout the summer. And these are my first experiences driving a vehicle. So some of you might be wondering, that's great, but how do you actually drive a car? I'm gonna show you. So I have an SUV because it's easier for me to put my wheelchair in the back, and that way I don't have to take it apart. And you might be thinking, how do you physically drive the car? You don't have legs to reach the pedals. And you're right, let me show you. So right here I have some hand controls. Now you can choose which side of the steering wheel you want them on. Although I'm right-handed, I prefer to use the controls with my left hand so I can steer with my dominant hand. Now how these work is, you grab this, you push down for the gas, and forward for the brake. That's literally it. So the other thing that's cool and important to note is that you can still use the pedals to drive the car. So a non-disabled person like my partner can still drive my car using his feet. The other modification that I needed for my car is this little booster seat. Folks, Future Spencer here. So sorry about the random zooms in and out. I can control my phone with my watch, and it was rubbing against my coat. Whoops, back to the video.
Without it, I wouldn't be able to see over the steering wheel, and that's not safe. So that now, I can see over the dashboard. The other thing that's different about my car is the seatbelt. Let me show you. Oh my God, it is so warm today. I gotta take this off. I have the seatbelt extension that plugs into the regular seatbelt. And then there's this added attachment, which the seatbelt goes into. And we've created this extra loop that is sewn in on the seatbelt. So when I put the seatbelt on, instead of going around my waist, which is sort of tucked in when I sit down, it goes higher up just under my ribs and across my chest, which keeps me safe. And you can remove this from the adapter and a non-disabled person can use the seatbelt normally. The other cool thing is you can use this booster on the passenger seat and it also has that adapter for the seatbelt. So I can ride safely here or driving the car. Whew, it is hot today. So I want to tell y'all my experience of getting my physical driver's license. Now I grew up in the state of Wyoming in the United States, and to get your learner's permit, you had to be 15 years old. So I was super excited. Now my dad got his truck fixed up with hand controls, so I was gonna learn how to drive with his truck. It was a big pickup truck. And we went down to the DMV, I took the test, and I failed. There's a certain amount of time you have to wait in between before you can take it again. I went back, I failed again. Went back a third time, finally passed. And then it was time to learn. Now I'm really grateful that my dad taught me how to drive a truck first, because having driven a big vehicle, I feel like I can get in any vehicle now and drive it, no problem. Now I spent the entire year driving with my parents, and it was difficult. Truthfully, I wasn't the best driver to start out with. I was really nervous. I was really scared to make a mistake, and my dad, bless his heart, was not very patient, and I'm sure I didn't make it easy on him either. So after a year of turmoil and tears and all the things, I finally got the hang of it. Now, I would have loved to have taken driver's ed, because my high school offered that, but unfortunately, they didn't offer it for folks with disabilities. So I had to learn on my own. Now, the time came for me to take the actual driving test, which is when I turned 16. And I'm pretty sure I did it like right on my birthday. I was very eager. And I remember driving with I think it was with my mom to the DMV, going in and saying, I'd like to take the driver's test. And again, this was a perk of taking driver's ed. You didn't have to go to the DMV. You could take it, if my memory's correct, you could take it in the driver's ed school, and then all you had to do is go and hand in your paperwork and they would give you your license. I didn't get to do that. I had to do the full thing in the car. I obviously had to bring my own car because it was the only one that was accessible. And I was terrified because I wasn't the best at parallel parking. I could do it, but it was in my dad's truck. It was a beast. So we get there. I say, I'm here to take my driver's test. They said, great. I get in the car. I do all the things in my mind. I'm like, okay, put your seatbelt on. Check. Okay. Look in all your mirrors, adjust all the things. Then they're like, okay, turn on the car. Then they had me drive. Now, I'm from a small town in Wyoming. At the time, it was about 22,000 people. So it wasn't huge, and there wasn't like a ton of traffic. So I'm really grateful that that was my experience. So I'm driving, and you do a left-hand turn at the light. So they took me up this road, and they had me pull into the hospital parking lot. And I was like, oh, here it is. We're gonna have to parallel park. But they didn't make me parallel park. We drove to a parking spot. They said, park here, put it in park, put it in reverse, checked all my mirrors, backed out, and away we went. I didn't have to parallel park. We get back to the DMV. They were like, you did great. You passed everything. Let's go in and take care of your license. Then we go into the DMV and I am ecstatic. You could have parked a car in my smile. I was so excited. And then once they took the photo, they started asking some of my information. And then they're like, what's your height? And I was like, oh, I'm 2'7" tall. And they put it in the computer and they wait, and I see them hit some buttons again, and they type it in again, and they wait, and they look a bit puzzled. And meanwhile, I'm panicking, like, oh my God, what's happening? Is this not gonna work? And then finally they were like, we're so sorry. Our computer doesn't recognize 2'7" as a height for driving. So I just went ahead and put 3 feet. So we're gonna lie a little bit on your license here. For the rest of my life, it's literally been 3 feet. Even when I moved to Canada and switched my driver's license over, they went to put in my height. Oh, it won't take it. So we're gonna have to put 3 feet. So I technically lied on my driver's license. So that's how I learned to drive. Now, I just want to reiterate that driving is such a privilege, and I know that not everybody has access to that. And I have a lot of privilege with my disability in that I can get in and out of the car no problem, lifting my chair by myself. I don't need a lift or a ramp. And as you know, cars are expensive. Having your car modified is expensive. This is not something that's accessible to all disabled folks. So I just want to point that out. And with a lot of my videos, I don't always represent the majority of disabled folks because I have a lot of privilege. I'm able to get out of my wheelchair and walk on my hands and navigate the world that way. That isn't the lived experience of all folks with disabilities, and I think that's really important to point out. So for me, my car is a very important piece of accessibility because it allows me to get myself and my wheelchair to a lot of places across the city that wouldn't otherwise be accessible. Okay, that's it. Thanks for sticking around. See you next Friday. Okay, bye.